up and up. After the first American tour, the Beatles turned to another world, films. They made A Hard Day's Night in the spring of 1964. The title of the film and the song of the same name was something that Ringo said. The rest of the band often laughed at the drummer's unusual way of saying things. The film's writer, Alan Owen, spent a few days with the band. The Beatles were funny, and the film showed this. Owen also understood the band's daily life. For much of the film, they were running away from screaming fans. The band liked making the film, but George probably enjoyed it most. He fell in love with one of the actresses, Pattie Boyd. They were married in 1966. The black and white film was first shown in London and Liverpool. It was a big success. The album was too. This time, all the songs were by Lennon and McCartney. Many people really liked Ringo's acting in the film. Some even called him the new Charlie Chaplin. But Ringo remembers that he came straight from a club for one very funny part. He says that he wasn't acting much. John and Paul's musical ideas were growing all the time. Each new song was different and exciting. A different sound. John and Paul were both big fans of Bob Dylan's music. The subjects and language in the young American songs were always unusual and interesting. The song I'm a Loser on the album Beatles for Sale at the end of 1964 sounded a little like a Dylan song. The same was true of the following year's You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. John even found time to write a book in 1964. John Lennon, in his own right, was full of funny short stories and pictures. It didn't have any serious meaning. In the introduction, Paul wrote, "If it seems funny, then that's enough." John wrote another book the next year. In early 1965, the Beatles made their second film. After the success of A Hard Day's Night, there was more money. But the band just wanted to travel and have a good time. We started saying, "We've never been to the Bahamas. Could you write that in?" Paul remembers. As George said later, "We had fun in those days." But John remembered it differently. This wasn't a happy time for him. "You can't see it, but I'm singing Help," he said. Here to Stay. Later in 1965, Paul wrote one of the most popular songs of all time. Yesterday was a beautiful, sad song about lost love. Story behind the song. The music for Yesterday came to Paul in a dream. He just woke up one morning with the song in his head. At first, he thought it was an old song, but none of his friends knew it. The first words to the song were about eggs. George Martin loved the song immediately, but in his opinion, it needed something different. Paul recorded it without the rest of the band. He played the guitar alone, while a small group of musicians played strings. The song is one of the band's most famous. It has been recorded by many different singers and groups, and in many different ways. Paul was sometimes angry when people called it their favourite Beatles song.